In class, he said humans don't fight barehanded. She quietly lifted her hand and challenged his claim. Inside, students from dozens of species moved between classrooms, training halls, and dining areas. It was a place built to teach, to share knowledge, and most importantly, to prepare for the challenges of a universe that rarely respected weakness. The hallway smelled faintly of metal polish and recycled air. Soft lights glimmered above. Lena Brooks walked calmly through the corridor, her boots making a quiet thump on the floor. She kept her hands at her sides and her eyes forward, moving without hurry. She had been at the academy for 3 cycles, and she knew the rhythm of life here. Alien students passed her, some with curiosity in their eyes, others with thinly veiled amusement. She did not notice the stares. Humans were not rare here, but they were still a curiosity to most of the other species. Today was history of interspecies combat, a class she always found both dull and tense. The instructor, Professor Kelrin, was a tall alien with green, scaly skin, elongated fingers, and a voice that carried without effort. He liked to teach by asserting ideas strongly and letting students either agree or resist. He moved across the front of the classroom, tapping a long claw against the holoscreen which displayed images of human soldiers, alien warriors, and ancient battles. "Humans," Kelrin began, his voice deep and confident, "do not fight barehanded. They are weak compared to most of your species. Their history is filled with reliance on weapons, armor, and technology. They avoid direct physical combat whenever possible." Some alien students nodded, while a few whispered to each other. A reptilian male named Zorak leaned back in his chair, arms crossed, and smiled. He had been listening to human claims for years and found them amusing. Lena sat quietly, listening. Her fingers twitched slightly under the table. She did not usually interrupt classes, but something about Kelrin's statement felt wrong. It was not just wrong, it was insulting to all human students present. She took a breath and raised her hand, keeping her voice calm. "Professor Kelrin," she said, "I think your claim about humans is not correct. Humans have fought barehanded for most of our history. We relied on our bodies and instincts long before we had advanced weapons." The classroom went silent. Kelrin froze for a moment, his long green fingers hovering above the holoscreen. The alien students stared at Lena, their eyes wide. Some leaned forward, curious. Others smirked, thinking this human would be embarrassed soon. "Are you serious?" Zorak hissed, almost under his breath. "You expect us to believe that your species, soft and fragile, fought without tools?" Lena kept her gaze steady. "I am," she said simply. "Humans learned to endure pain, to resist fear, and to survive with nothing but their own strength. It is part of what made our species thrive." Professor Kelrin looked at her carefully. He was not used to being challenged in this way, especially by a single student. Most students accepted his lectures without question. He could feel the tension rising in the room. After a pause, he spoke. "Very well," he said slowly. "We will discuss this properly, but claims must be proven. Theory is not enough. You say humans fought barehanded. Can you show us? Can you demonstrate it safely?" Lena felt her heart beat faster, but she did not hesitate. "Yes," she said, "I can demonstrate safely." Some students gasped. Zorak's eyes narrowed. He leaned forward. The idea that one human could face him or another alien barehanded seemed absurd. Many had assumed humans were fragile, suited only for tools. The thought of proving otherwise made the class curious and a little anxious. Professor Kelrin adjusted his stance. "Very well. The Academy allows supervised demonstrations. We can use the training hall with safety fields active. If you insist, we will see if humans truly can withstand combat without weapons." Lena nodded. She did not feel fear. She felt the familiar calm of preparation. She had trained in secret for years. She had practiced strength, endurance, and hand-to-hand techniques her ancestors had used. Humans had a long history of learning to survive, and she carried that knowledge in her body. Over the next few hours, the students prepared the training hall. Metal walls surrounded the arena, and glowing fields formed a cage that would absorb excessive force and prevent serious injury. Instructors moved among the students, checking sensors, adjusting field strength, and giving final instructions. Zora, a large reptilian male, was chosen as her opponent for the demonstration. He was bigger than most humans, with thick muscles, sharp claws, and a reputation for strength. He looked at Lena with amusement, clearly expecting an easy victory. "This is going to be quick," he said, his voice a low growl. I hope humans survive at all. Lena looked back calmly. We do more than survive, she said. Her eyes did not waver. We endure. The students arranged themselves in the observation area. Some leaned forward eagerly, others whispered doubts. Professor Kelrin activated the fields and checked all readings. Remember, he said to the class, this is a test of skill, endurance, and intelligence. Use only your hands, no weapons, no tools. If anyone is hurt beyond the safety limit, the demonstration will stop immediately. Lena stepped into the center of the arena. She felt the hum of the safety fields around her. Zorak stepped opposite her, flexing his claws. He was confident, and it showed. The room felt tense. Every student, human and alien, watched silently. Zorak made the first move. He lunged with speed that was almost shocking. Lena barely moved aside, letting his weight push past her. She shifted her balance and studied him carefully. The observers saw that she did not panic. She did not flail. She moved deliberately, keeping her stance low, her body ready. Zorak struck again, faster this time. Lena blocked with her arms, absorbing the impact in ways that surprised some observers. He growled, frustrated that his strength was not overwhelming her. She used his momentum against him, stepping aside and guiding him off balance. He stumbled but did not fall, yet the first shock of doubt crossed his mind. Humans, he hissed between moves, are stronger than I expected. Lena did not respond. She focused on timing, balance, and precision. She could feel the lessons of generations of humans inside her body. Every joint, every muscle, every reflex was trained to survive. She had read ancient texts, learned old techniques, and practiced tirelessly. Now all of it was real. The first round ended with Zorak exhausted from using raw strength and Lena barely breathing heavily. The class was silent. Even Professor Kelrin could not hide his surprise. He had expected her to falter quickly. Instead, she had absorbed blows, studied her opponent, and stayed upright. Remarkable, Kelrin said quietly to himself. I underestimated her. The human students in the class looked at Lena with pride. The alien students were silent, unsure what to think. Some whispered to each other, questioning what they had believed about humans all this time. Zorak clenched his fists, readying himself for the next round. He had been taught that power always wins. Now he wondered if skill, endurance, and will mattered more than brute strength. Lena lifted her hands slightly, not in aggression but in readiness. She had accepted the challenge, and she would prove the truth of humans. The room held its breath. The demonstration had only begun, and already perspectives were shifting. The quiet human who had spoken against a confident alien instructor was now about to show what her species could truly do. Time slowed in the arena. Every student's eyes followed her movements. Every pulse seemed louder. Even Zorak's heart raced. He had never faced an opponent who did not fear him, who did not panic under pressure. He had met many species, but humans, he realized, were different. Lena bent her knees slightly, keeping her weight low. She watched his movements, his muscles, his stance. She waited for an opening, not just to strike, but to demonstrate control, patience, and the truth of what she had said in class. She was ready to prove that humans did not need weapons to survive. And in that moment, a quiet determination filled the arena. What started as a simple classroom debate was about to become a demonstration that no one would forget. The training hall hummed softly as the safety field stabilized. Every student leaned closer to watch, some whispering predictions, others holding their breath. Zorak, the reptilian male, stretched his claws and flexed his muscles. His confidence remained, but beneath it, a flicker of doubt had appeared. He had faced many opponents in his life, but none like this human female who stood calmly before him. Lena felt the quiet hum of the energy field around her body. She had trained for years to react quickly, to endure pain, and to read opponents. The safety fields meant that she could test her limits without risking serious injury, but that did not make her careless. She focused on the fight itself, her mind empty of distraction, her body ready. Zorak moved first. He lunged forward with speed, aiming for her torso. His clawed hands struck, but Lena shifted slightly, letting the impact graze her shoulder without losing balance. She countered quickly, using a push against his arm to divert his strength. The other students gasped. They expected her to be thrown or knocked down immediately, but she remained upright. Humans are fragile, a small alien student whispered to a companion, but their voice lacked confidence now. Zorak growled, frustrated that his initial attacks had no clear effect. He swung again, harder this time, trying to use sheer power to overwhelm her. Lena twisted her body, letting his momentum carry him past her. She tapped lightly on his side, using his movement against him. It was not a strong blow, but enough to make him stumble slightly. The classroom observers leaned forward. Professor Kelrin's green-scaled fingers tapped nervously against the holoscreen. He had underestimated human skill. He had assumed that brute strength alone would show the weakness of a human. Now he realized that what he had dismissed as fragility might be something entirely different: endurance, intelligence, and patience. Zorak stopped briefly, studying her. "You are smaller than me, weaker than me," he said, voice low and steady. "Why are you not falling?" Lena did not answer with words. She only lifted her hand, keeping her stance ready. Her eyes followed his movements carefully. She waited for openings, watching for signs of fatigue, overextension, or imbalance. Humans had fought barehanded for centuries, not by overpowering opponents, but by understanding the body, by exploiting mistakes, by moving with patience. Zorak lunged again, claws aimed for her head. She ducked and rolled to the side, feeling the pressure of the safety field against her back as she landed. She sprang up, keeping her eyes on him, and lightly struck his arm with her elbow, targeting a joint. Zorak hissed in surprise. The impact was not enough to hurt him seriously, but it showed that human strikes could be precise and effective. Some alien students murmured in disbelief. One whispered, "I thought humans were weak." "Look at her, she moves like she is made of steel." Others nodded silently, their eyes wide. For the first time, some began to question what they had believed about humans. Zorak's pride pushed him forward. He used long, powerful swings and aggressive steps, trying to corner her. Lena sidestepped, guiding him slightly off balance each time. She did not rely on raw strength. She relied on control, timing, and understanding of movement. The safety field absorbed excess force, but every motion, every dodge, every counterstrike was calculated. Lena could feel the strain in her muscles, but she did not panic. Humans had evolved on a harsh planet where endurance, patience, and pain tolerance were necessities for survival. She drew on that instinct. Each movement was measured. Each strike, each dodge, each step was part of a long human tradition of fighting without weapons. Zorak's swings grew slower. He had expected a weak human, someone who would falter under pressure. Now he was forced to move carefully, to watch every strike, every dodge, every counter. Frustration built in him. He had relied on brute force in every fight, but here it was not enough. He tried to push harder, but his own movements became sloppy, predictable. Lena saw an opening. She moved quickly, stepping aside and lightly striking his leg with a precise kick. Zorak stumbled. She followed with a tap to his shoulder, using leverage to push him backward. The safety fields prevented serious injury, but every movement demonstrated skill, not strength. The room was silent, except for the soft hum of the energy field and the quiet breathing of students. Professor Kelrin whispered under his breath, "Humans, I have underestimated them." He adjusted the holoscreen to show closer angles of her movements. He wanted to analyze every detail. He realized that humans could endure more than any of his species expected. It was not just physical strength. It was intelligence, control, and determination. Zorak roared, trying to regain confidence. He swung his claws wide, aiming to overwhelm her. Lena dodged again, using his momentum to guide him past her. She tapped lightly on his back, pushing him forward and off balance. Zorak tried to recover, but he was tiring faster than she was. Every strike he made required enormous energy, while she moved efficiently, conserving strength. The alien students began to change their tone. Whispers of admiration replaced disbelief. One said, "Look at her timing, she is amazing." Another nodded, "Humans are not weak, I think we were wrong." Some of the younger students, who had always thought humans fragile, watched closely, fascinated by every move. Lena stayed calm. She knew that patience was key. She did not need to finish the fight quickly. She only needed to demonstrate that humans could endure, adapt, and overcome. Each strike and dodge was a lesson, each movement a proof of human resilience. Zorak's breathing became heavier. His swings were slower, less precise. He had never faced an opponent who could absorb, dodge, and counter without fear. He looked at Lena, and for the first time, doubt filled his mind. He realized that power alone would not win. Humans fought with more than fists. They fought with mind, body, and will. Lena moved carefully, closing distance when she saw small gaps. She tapped his arm, guided him slightly off balance, and then stepped back, ready to dodge again. Every motion showed control, every strike demonstrated skill. She was proving that humans could fight barehanded, and the evidence was visible to all in the hall. The safety field absorbed the hardest impacts, but it did not hide the effect of movement. Zorak stumbled again. He tried to adjust, to regain confidence, but he was tiring. His eyes flickered with surprise and frustration. He had expected a weak human, someone to humiliate quickly. Instead, he faced a fighter who could endure, who could adapt, who could outlast him. Professor Kelrin watched silently. He had spent years teaching that humans relied on weapons and tools. He had assumed it was common knowledge. Now he realized that humans could surprise, could endure, could challenge assumptions. Lena was teaching the class more than combat techniques. She was teaching respect for human potential. Some alien students whispered to each other. "We judged humans too quickly," one said. "I never thought we were wrong." Others nodded, quiet and thoughtful. The mood in the room shifted. What had started as amusement or skepticism turned into genuine respect. Humans were more than fragile creatures. They were resilient, intelligent, and capable. Zorak's movements slowed. His swings lacked energy, his steps were heavier. He tried one last strong lunge, but Lena stepped aside with perfect timing, lightly guiding him off balance. He stumbled and fell, not hurt but clearly defeated. The safety field absorbed most impact, but it was clear to everyone, the human had won. The hall was silent for a moment. Students and instructors alike stared. Professor Kelrin took a deep breath, then nodded slowly. He stepped forward. "This is remarkable," he said. "Lena Brooks has shown that humans do not rely solely on weapons. They endure, adapt, and fight with skill and intelligence." Lena lowered her hand, breathing steadily. She looked around the room, meeting the eyes of alien and human students alike. Some nodded in respect, some still looked shocked. Zorak slowly got up, brushing himself off. He looked at her and said, I underestimated you. Humans are not weak, I understand now." Lena smiled faintly. She did not boast. She had only done what humans had always done, used patience, intelligence, and resilience to survive. The lesson was clear. Humans could endure even when others doubted them. The class had seen it, and the perception of her species would never be the same. Professor Kelrin stepped closer. He looked at her carefully with a new understanding. "I apologize for underestimating humans," he said quietly. "Your performance proves that skill and endurance can surpass raw strength. You have taught everyone here a valuable lesson." Lena nodded politely. "I only demonstrated what humans have always known," she said. "We fight to survive. Sometimes that means using nothing but our bodies and our will." The students began to discuss quietly among themselves. Alien students, once dismissive, now spoke of humans with respect. Younger students asked questions about human training and endurance. Human students smiled quietly, proud of the demonstration and the respect it had earned. Zorak, still breathing heavily, shook his head. "I will not forget this lesson," he said. "Humans are stronger than we believed. I have learned something important today." Lena nodded. She knew that the fight had been more than a personal challenge. It had changed perceptions. Humans were no longer just a species that relied on technology. They were resilient, intelligent, and capable of facing the universe itself with nothing but their own bodies. The demonstration ended, but its impact would last for a long time. Professor Kelrin made notes for the next class. Alien students talked quietly among themselves, some still in disbelief, others filled with admiration. The human students felt pride and quiet satisfaction. Lena walked out of the arena calmly, as always, knowing that the truth of human strength had been shown for all to see after the first demonstration. The training hall was quiet, but charged with curiosity. Alien students whispered to each other, some still shocked, some impressed. The human students smiled quietly, proud of what Lena had shown. Even Zorak, who had been confident and mocking before, walked slowly back to his corner, rubbing his arms and thinking carefully. He had underestimated humans in every way. Lena stood in the center of the arena, breathing steadily. Her body was tired, but her mind was clear. The first round had been about proving endurance and skill. Now she knew she had to show even more: strategy, patience, and the depth of human training. She had spent years learning techniques her ancestors had used. She knew that humans survived not by brute force, but by adapting, learning, and enduring. Professor Kelrin stepped forward, his green scales glinting under the hall lights. "We will continue," he said, voice calm. This next round will test not only endurance but intelligence. Use only your bodies. Show what humans can truly do. Some alien students leaned forward, eyes wide. Zorak looked at Lena with a mix of respect and frustration. He had won many battles with raw power, but here he faced an opponent who was patient, precise, and fearless. He flexed his claws and moved to face her again, this time with more caution. Lena watched him carefully. She did not move immediately. She studied his stance, his breathing, and the small shifts of his body. Every species had weaknesses, and she knew that understanding them was key to victory. She had trained herself to read opponents, to see where they would make mistakes. Zorak was strong, but his confidence made him predictable. He lunged first, faster this time, aiming for her torso. Lena sidestepped, letting him move past her and guiding him slightly off balance with her elbow. The safety field absorbed most impact, but Zorak hissed in surprise. He had expected another easy attack, but Lena moved with precision, timing each dodge and counter perfectly. The alien students whispered among themselves. One said, "Look at her movements, so calm, so controlled." Another added, "She is small, but she is powerful in a different way." Even some of the older alien students, who had been skeptical, now leaned forward, fascinated by the demonstration. Lena shifted her weight, circling around Zorak carefully. She did not strike immediately. Humans fought with patience. They waited for openings, for mistakes, and then acted decisively. Zorak swung again, trying to corner her, but she used his momentum to move past him, tapping lightly on his side and guiding him forward. He stumbled, surprised at how easily his strength was redirected. "Humans," he hissed, "are different than I thought. Stronger than they look." Lena did not respond with words. Her eyes stayed on him, ready for the next move. She had learned to fight not with anger or pride, but with calm determination. Every strike, every dodge, every step had a purpose. She was proving that humans could fight barehanded not by overpowering opponents, but by using skill, intelligence, and endurance. Zorak lunged again, claws aimed for her head. Lena ducked and rolled to the side, using the momentum of the safety field to push off and come up behind him. She tapped lightly on his back, guiding him slightly forward. He stumbled again, breathing heavier. The room was silent except for the hum of the safety field and the sound of controlled movements. Professor Kelrin watched carefully. He had taught that humans were weak without weapons, but here he saw something entirely different. Lena moved with control, absorbing impacts, reading her opponent, and using precise timing. It was not raw strength, but strategy and endurance combined. Humans, he realized, had a type of strength his species did not understand fully. The alien students began to discuss quietly among themselves. One said, "We judged humans too quickly. Look at how she moves, she is amazing." Another nodded, "Strength is not only muscle. Endurance, patience, intelligence, they matter too." Even Zorak began to nod slowly, his pride humbled by the display. Lena saw a small opening. She moved quickly, stepping aside from a wide swing and lightly tapping his leg with her foot. Zorak stumbled again, surprised at the precision. She followed with a gentle push on his shoulder, using his own weight to move him off balance. It was not a powerful attack, but it showed skill, timing, and control. The safety fields absorbed the impacts, but the demonstration was clear to everyone. Humans were not weak. They could fight with nothing but their bodies, using intelligence, patience, and endurance. The alien students began to see that strength was not only about raw power. It was about knowing how to move, how to adapt, and how to endure. Zorak tried one last aggressive move. He lunged forward with all his strength, aiming to overpower her. Lena sidestepped smoothly, guiding him past her again. She lightly tapped his back, and he stumbled, finally falling to the ground. He was not hurt seriously, but he was clearly exhausted and defeated. The safety field protected him from harm, but the lesson was clear. The human had won again. The hall was silent for a moment. Students stared, unable to speak. Professor Kelrin took a deep breath, realizing that his assumptions about humans were wrong. He had taught for years that humans relied on weapons because they were fragile. Now, he saw that humans could endure, adapt, and fight effectively without any tools. Lena lowered her hands, breathing steadily. She looked around the room, meeting the eyes of both human and alien students. Some nodded in respect, some still looked shocked. Zorak slowly got up, brushing himself off, and looked at her. "I underestimated humans," he admitted. "You are stronger than I thought and smarter than I expected." Lena nodded quietly. Humans fight to survive, she said. We endure, we adapt, we do not give up even when facing stronger opponents. Professor Kelrin stepped forward, addressing the class. This demonstration has shown something important. Humans are not weak. Their strength is different from ours, but it is real and effective. They survive through patience, skill, and endurance. The human students smiled quietly. They felt proud that Lena had shown the truth of their species. The alien students who had been skeptical and mocking now spoke in quiet admiration. Even Zorak, once proud and arrogant, now nodded in respect. He had learned a lesson about humans that he would not forget. Lena walked slowly from the center of the arena. Her movements were calm and steady. She had proven more than just physical skill. She had demonstrated human resilience, intelligence, and determination. The academy, the students, and even the instructors now understood that humans were capable of more than they had believed. The impact of her demonstration was not limited to the training hall. Whispers of respect and amazement spread quickly through the academy. Students spoke of humans differently now, not as fragile or weak, but as resilient and intelligent fighters. Younger students who had doubted humans began to ask questions about human training, endurance, and history. Professor Kelrin made careful notes for future classes. He realized that he had underestimated not only Lena but humans as a whole. Their endurance, patience, and ability to adapt were lessons that all species could learn from. He had expected to teach a simple class about human weakness, but he had learned something much more valuable. Humans could surprise, endure, and overcome. Zorak approached Lena after the demonstration. He extended his clawed hand, a gesture of respect. "Thank you," he said quietly. "You have taught me something important. Humans are stronger than I believed. I will not forget this." Lena nodded. "We survive," she said simply. "We endure. That is what humans do." The demonstration ended, but the impact lasted. Students continued to discuss, instructors reviewed movements, and the perception of humans in the academy had shifted forever. Lena had proven that humans could fight barehanded, not just with strength, but with intelligence, patience, and endurance. The universe, she showed, could never dismiss a human lightly. As she walked out of the arena, she felt calm and satisfied. The lesson had been taught, and the respect for humans had grown. It was not a display of arrogance or pride, it was a demonstration of truth. Humans had survived harsh worlds, evolved to endure, and learned to fight without weapons. And now, everyone in the academy had seen it for themselves after the demonstration. The academy felt different. Whispers filled the halls, students moving in small groups, talking quietly about what they had seen. Humans, once considered fragile and dependent on technology, were now subjects of curiosity and respect. Lena walked through the corridors calmly, her steps measured. She felt the quiet pride of knowing she had shown the truth about her species, but she did not boast. She understood that respect had to be earned through action, and she had only begun. Professor Kelrin walked beside her, still thoughtful. His green-scaled hands brushed against the edge of the holoscreen he carried. He had spent years teaching about human weakness, assuming that it was fact. Now he knew he had been wrong. "Lena," he said quietly, "your demonstration, it changes everything." "Humans are not as weak as I believed. Their strength is different but real." Lena nodded. "Humans have always survived," she said. "We endure, we adapt, we fight even when it seems impossible. It is in our nature." The human students who had watched the demonstration gathered around her. One, a young man named Carter, grinned. "You did it, Lena," he said. "You showed everyone what we are capable of. I think even Zorak won't forget this." Lena smiled faintly. "It was never about proving anything to him personally," she said. "It was about showing the truth. Humans are more than what other species assume." Zorak approached slowly, still rubbing his arms from the previous rounds. His pride had been humbled, but he carried himself with dignity. "Lena," he said, "I underestimated humans. Your skill, endurance, and patience, it is impressive. I have learned something important today." Lena inclined her head. "I am glad you understand," she said simply. "Humans survive because we must. We do not rely on strength alone. We use our minds, our bodies, and our will." Professor Kelrin called the students together later that day. He wanted to address the demonstration and discuss its lessons. The class gathered in the lecture hall, alien and human students seated side by side. Kelrin's voice was calm but firm. "Today, we have learned that assumptions can be wrong. Humans do not rely solely on weapons or technology. They endure, they adapt. They fight with patience, intelligence, and resilience. These qualities deserve respect. Some alien students nodded slowly, absorbing the words. One whispered to a companion, "We thought humans were fragile. Now I see that they are different, stronger than I imagined." Lena listened quietly, sitting among her fellow human students. She felt calm and satisfied. The lesson had been taught, not with anger or pride, but with demonstration. Humans had shown that their bodies and minds could withstand what others could not, and that truth was now recognized. Over the next few days, the academy began to shift. Instructors updated their lectures, including new sections about human endurance, adaptability, and combat techniques. Alien students who had been skeptical approached human students with questions, wanting to learn about their training and abilities. Some even asked for demonstrations of techniques, eager to understand how humans could endure so much. Zorak, who had once mocked humans, now sought to train with them. He approached Lena and Carter one morning. "I want to understand more," he said. "Your species moves with intelligence. We are strong, but you use patience, timing, and strategy. Teach me." Lena agreed. "I can show you some basic techniques," she said. "But remember, the strength comes from discipline, endurance, and understanding. It is not about power alone." As they trained, other students watched. Alien students began to respect human skill in new ways. Whispers turned to conversations, and conversations turned to genuine curiosity. Humans were no longer seen as weak. They were seen as resilient, intelligent, and capable of surviving even in the harshest conditions. Professor Kelrin observed the interactions carefully. He realized that the demonstration had changed not only his perception, but also the perception of many students. Assumptions about strength, fragility, and combat had been challenged. The academy itself was becoming a place where respect was earned through skill and understanding, not just by reputation or size. Lena continued to train, guiding other students in techniques and endurance exercises. She showed them how humans could survive without weapons, how they could use balance, leverage, and timing to overcome stronger opponents. The students listened carefully, practicing alongside her. Even Zorak improved, learning that patience and control were as important as raw power. One afternoon, Professor Kelrin called Lena aside. "Your demonstration," he said, "has changed the curriculum. We will include more about human endurance, psychology, and combat. You have done more than show skill. You have taught the academy to respect humans." Lena nodded quietly. "I only showed the truth," she said. "Humans have survived harsh worlds for thousands of years. Our strength is in our patience, endurance, and determination. That is something worth understanding." Word of the demonstration spread beyond the academy. Visiting instructors from other institutions requested reports and videos. They wanted to understand how a human could fight barehanded against a stronger alien opponent and prevail. Humans, who had once been underestimated, were now becoming a subject of study and respect. The human students felt pride, not arrogance. They knew they had shown what their species was capable of, but they also understood that respect had to be maintained through action. They continued to train, to endure, and to adapt. The lessons of the demonstration became part of their daily lives. Zorak approached Lena one evening after training. "I have learned more than I expected," he said. "Your species is remarkable. I will not forget today. Humans have patience, intelligence, and endurance that are rare even among the strongest of our kind." Lena smiled faintly. "We survive because we must," she said. "We endure because giving up is not an option. That is how humans have always lived." Professor Kelrin stood nearby, watching the conversation. He reflected on how easily assumptions could be wrong. Humans were different from what he had thought, and yet in their differences, they were strong in ways that other species could learn from. The demonstration had taught him humility and a lesson in respect. Over the next weeks, alien students who had once mocked humans began to approach human peers with questions and requests to train together. Small groups formed, where humans taught endurance, timing, and strategy. Alien students were amazed at how effective human techniques were, even when raw strength was not the primary factor. The academy began to change slowly. Respect replaced doubt. Curiosity replaced mockery. Humans were no longer underestimated. Their abilities, once dismissed, were now celebrated and studied. Students of all species learned that strength was more than muscle. It was patience, discipline, and the will to endure. Lena walked through the halls one afternoon, observing the changes. Alien and human students practiced together, exchanging techniques and advice. She felt calm pride in what she had helped achieve. It was not about winning a fight. It was about changing perceptions, earning respect, and demonstrating truth. Zorak approached her again, a small smile on his face. "You have done more than fight," he said. "You have taught the Academy to see humans differently. I will not forget this." Lena nodded. "Humans survive because we endure," she said. "That is our strength." It is not loud, it is not flashy, but it is real. Professor Kelrin addressed the class the next day. "The demonstration by Lena Brooks has changed our understanding of human capabilities. We must always remember that assumptions can be misleading. Strength is not only measured in size or muscle, but also in endurance, intelligence, and willpower. Humans have shown us this truth." The students listened quietly, many nodding. Whispers of admiration filled the room, replacing skepticism. Humans were no longer outsiders to be underestimated. They were respected peers, teachers, and examples of resilience. Lena continued her training and teaching, guiding students in understanding human techniques. She showed them how to use balance, timing, and strategy, how endurance and patience could overcome strength, and how intelligence in combat was as important as physical power. Alien students practiced diligently, impressed by the results. Zorak, once mocking and arrogant, had become a student of humans. He trained carefully, learning to move with patience and control. He admired their endurance and the way they could continue when stronger opponents expected them to falter. Professor Kelrin made notes for future classes, revising lectures and lessons to include human resilience and intelligence. He realized that teaching about humans required understanding their history, endurance, and methods, not simply dismissing them as weak. The Academy had changed. Respect replaced doubt. Curiosity replaced mockery. Humans, once underestimated, were now recognized for their true strength. The lessons of the demonstration would remain long after the students graduated, influencing generations to come. Lena walked calmly through the hallways, knowing that her quiet demonstration had made a lasting impact. She had not sought glory, only truth. Humans endured, adapted, and survived, and now the universe, starting with the Academy, had learned to see them clearly. Even Zorak, who had once mocked her, now moved with careful respect. He had learned humility, patience, and the importance of observation and endurance. He had learned that strength was not only physical, it was mental, emotional, and spiritual. The Academy buzzed with new energy. Students of all species trained together, shared knowledge, and respected the skills of humans. Lena's demonstration had started a ripple of change, teaching the value of patience, endurance, and intelligence over brute force. The Academy would never see humans in the same way again. The Academy was alive with energy that had not been there before. Humans were no longer just another species among many. They were respected for their endurance, intelligence, and skill. Alien students who had once mocked them now approached with curiosity, asking questions and requesting demonstrations. Instructors revised lectures to include human techniques, endurance strategies, and history. The shift was subtle but powerful. The quiet demonstration by Lena Brooks had changed everything. Lena walked through the hallways, her steps calm, observing the new interactions. Small groups of students trained together, humans with aliens exchanging knowledge and techniques. Zorak, once mocking and arrogant, moved carefully alongside Carter, another human student practicing timing and strategy. He had learned humility, and the respect he now showed was genuine. Professor Kelrin walked behind Lena, his green-scaled fingers brushing along the holoscreen at his side. "I have learned more from you than I expected," he said quietly. "The Academy will remember this demonstration. Humans are no longer underestimated here." Lena nodded. "We endure," she said. "We survive. That is what humans have always done. I only showed what is true." In the training hall, a new group of students gathered. They were younger and had not witnessed the original demonstration, but they had heard the stories. Lena stepped forward to guide them. She showed basic techniques of balance, timing, and movement. She explained the importance of patience and observation. The students watched carefully, absorbing each lesson. One alien student, a small feline-like female, whispered to a companion, "Humans are amazing. They do not rely on brute force, yet they can overcome stronger opponents. It is incredible." Lena smiled faintly. Strength is not only muscle, she said. It is endurance, intelligence, and determination. Humans survive because we never give up, even when the odds are against us. Zorak moved next to her, practicing a sequence she had demonstrated. His movements were careful, controlled, and deliberate. He looked at her and nodded. I understand now, he said. Strength is not only physical. Humans fight with their minds and their will. I have learned more than I expected. Professor Kelrin observed quietly, making notes. He had learned humility and respect from Lena's actions. The academy had changed because of her. Assumptions about humans had been challenged and corrected. Students now approached humans with curiosity, respect, and a desire to learn. One afternoon, Lena was called to a meeting with several instructors. They wanted her input on curriculum changes and training programs. She explained the importance of endurance, observation, and strategy. She showed how humans could train effectively, even without relying on weapons or tools. The instructors listened carefully, taking notes and asking questions. Your demonstration, Professor Kelrin said, has not only taught the students but has changed the way we teach. Humans will now be a standard of endurance and intelligence for all species to study. Lena nodded calmly. We have survived harsh worlds for thousands of years, she said. Our strength is in our bodies, our minds, and our will. We endure because giving up is never an option. The news of Lena's demonstration spread beyond the academy. Visiting instructors and students from other institutions requested recordings and reports. Humans, once underestimated, were now subjects of study and admiration. Other species wanted to learn how humans could endure, adapt, and succeed where strength alone might fail. Back in the training hall, Lena guided a demonstration with Zorak and several other alien students. She moved with calm precision, showing techniques of timing, leverage, and controlled strikes. She explained the philosophy behind human endurance, how patience and observation could turn the tide in combat. The students watched closely, imitating movements, asking questions, and practicing diligently. Some human students whispered to each other, "We have always known this. Now they are learning it too." They felt pride, not arrogance. The lesson was not about proving superiority, but about showing truth. Humans had survived because of resilience, and now others could learn from it. Zorak practiced alongside them, moving carefully, learning from each demonstration. He had changed from a mocking opponent to a student of humans, understanding the depth of endurance, patience, and intelligence. He looked at Lena with respect. I will remember these lessons, he said. Humans are stronger than I imagined. Professor Kelrin addressed the students the next day. The demonstration by Lena Brooks has permanently changed our understanding of human capabilities. We have learned that strength is not only measured in muscle, but in patience, endurance, and the will to continue. Humans have shown us that their resilience is exceptional. Students of all species listened quietly, many nodding in agreement. They had seen humans train, adapt, and endure. Respect had replaced doubt, and curiosity had replaced mockery. The academy would never view humans the same way again. Lena continued to train, guide, and teach. She demonstrated techniques for endurance, balance, and observation. She showed how humans could fight without weapons, using strategy, timing, and patience. Alien students practiced diligently, learning that strength was not only physical but also mental and emotional. One day, Zorak approached Lena after a long session. I have learned something important, he said. Humans do not fight to show power, they fight to survive. Their endurance and patience are remarkable. I respect your species more than I did before. Lena nodded. We endure because we must, she said. Giving up is never an option, that is what makes humans strong. Professor Kelrin stood nearby, observing. He had changed as well. He had assumed humans were weak, but now he understood the depth of their resilience. The academy had learned a lesson in humility, respect, and truth. Assumptions could be wrong, and true strength often came in unexpected forms. Over the next cycles, the academy integrated human techniques into standard training. Endurance exercises, observation practices, and controlled combat became part of the curriculum. Students of all species learned to respect human methods. The perception of humans shifted from fragile outsiders to resilient and capable beings. Lena continued to train new students, showing them the ways of human endurance. She emphasized patience, observation, and strategy. Every movement had a purpose, every exercise taught a lesson. Alien students marveled at the effectiveness of human techniques and the calm focus that humans maintained in stressful situations. Zorak often trained beside her, demonstrating the lessons he had learned. He had grown to admire humans for their intelligence and resilience. He had learned that strength was more than raw power. It was patience, endurance, and the will to continue despite difficulty. Professor Kelrin addressed the academy again. The demonstration by Lena Brooks has had a lasting impact. Humans are no longer underestimated. Their endurance, intelligence, and skill have set a new standard for all species. We must remember that strength comes in many forms. The students listened quietly, absorbing the lesson. Humans had proven themselves not only capable, but exceptional. Respect and admiration for human abilities became a permanent part of the academy culture. Lena walked through the training halls, observing students practicing together. Humans and aliens moved side by side, learning from each other. She felt calm satisfaction. Her demonstration had started a ripple of change, teaching the value of endurance, patience, and intelligence over brute force. The academy had learned to see humans clearly, and the respect would last for generations. Zorak approached her once more. "Thank you," he said quietly. "You have taught us more than we realized. Humans are remarkable. I will carry this lesson always." Lena smiled faintly. "We endure," she said simply. "We survive. That is what humans have always done. Now you understand it too." Professor Kelrin watched silently, reflecting on how assumptions could be wrong. He had thought humans were fragile and weak, but he now understood that their resilience, intelligence, and patience were extraordinary. The Academy had learned a valuable lesson in humility, respect, and truth. The Academy had changed forever. Humans were respected, admired, and studied. Their techniques became part of standard training. Alien students learned to value endurance and intelligence as much as raw strength. Humans had shown that true strength was more than muscle. It was patience, will, and the ability to endure. Lena continued her work quietly, demonstrating, teaching, and guiding. She had not sought recognition, only truth. Humans survived because they must, endured because giving up was not an option, and adapted because survival required it. The Academy and all who witnessed it had learned this truth, and it would never be forgotten. The sun of the artificial planet glimmered through the observation windows. Students trained, instructors guided, and humans moved with calm determination. The Academy buzzed with energy and respect. A quiet human who once challenged assumptions had changed the perception of an entire institution. Her hand had lifted, her challenge had been accepted, and the truth of human resilience had been revealed. And in that quiet, steady way, humans had earned their place, not through arrogance, not through loud displays, but through endurance, patience, and the unshakable will to survive. The universe had taken note, starting with the Academy that would now forever remember that humans could endure, adapt, and prevail.